Hey guys, so by now you should be very familiar with your interest formula. Interest equals to principal times the rate times the number of periods. And you should be able to use your algebra to find any of those elements in that formula depending on what the question requires you to have. So hopefully that's very good for you now. This time we're going to go beyond that one. Interest. Tell me what interest is, guys. Interest is the amount you pay to the bank in return of them lending us money, isn't it? So they're not going to lend us money for free. So if you borrow, say, a certain amount, they're going to be charging interest on top of that. So you have to pay what you borrow in addition to the interest, don't you? So you have to pay the interest in addition to what you borrow, rather. That would be better to put it. So if you're asked to find the total to be repaid, the total amount that you have to repay to the bank in return is not only the interest, and it's not only just the amount you borrow, it's the amount you borrow plus the interest. So you have to add it together if the question asks you to find the total to be repaid. So I put on the board here the formula for you. The total amount to be repaid is the principal value that you borrow, so this is the amount that you borrow, plus the interest that they charge you. So together is the total that you have to pay back to the bank. Okay, make sure you have that clear in your mind before we go on to an example. So I'm going to start with an example. Juri borrowed $2,000 at flat rate 6% per annum for 5 years. And it tells us that the principal is $2,000, the interest rate is 0.06, which is just 6%, and it goes for 5 years. Now, if we are asked to find the total to be repaid for this loan, we'll first have to calculate our interest, don't we? So, remember our interest formula, which is stuck in your head by now. Interest is our principal times rate times the period. So we just have to multiply all of those three out, don't we? Just like that. And calculate it, you should get $600. So that's the interest that we have to pay back to the bank. But if we're asked to find the total to be repaid, we have to use our formula here. Total is the principal value that you borrow, which is our $2,000. That's how much we borrowed initially. And now the bank's also going to be charging us interest because they're not going to lend us money for free. So we have to add those two up. So that's the total to be repaid, which simply becomes $2,600 altogether. So if you have a look, that's more than you actually borrowed, right? But you have to take that risk because you're actually borrowing money over a certain period. You're not paying the money on the spot, so that's what they charge you as interest. All right? So let's try a question. Question 1, calculate the total amount to be repaid for the loan. So they give us the principal value that they borrow, they give us the interest rate, and they give us the period. So first of all, when we want to find how much we have to pay back to the bank or whoever lends us money, we have to calculate our interest. So interest, our formula here, I'm just going to give this to you here, but make sure it's already stuck in your head. So interest is principal times rate times period, which means we can just multiply these three numbers all together and get $2,500. So that's the interest that we pay over the 10-year time. Now, to find the total to be repaid, remember total to be paid is principal, the amount that we borrow, plus the additional interest. So it's going to be our principal value of $5,000 and our interest that we've just calculated, which is $2,500. Add it together and that's your answer. That's how much we have to pay all together to whoever lends us money. All right, so that's it. So there's actually two steps and two kind of formulas that you got to remember. Question 2, calculate the total amount owing of the loan. So amount owing means how much we have to pay back. So it's eventually the same question. Principal is $8,000, interest rate is 6% per annum, and period is 2.5 years. So first, let's find the interest using our interest formula. So we multiply all those three out together and get $1,200. It's just some simple calculations, so I'll just go through that one really quickly. And now we've found the interest, so we have to find the total to be paid, which is our principal plus the interest that we've just calculated. So principal value is $8,000, so that's how much we borrow initially. So we have to add the interest that we've just calculated on top of that, which becomes that. That's how much total we have to pay back, and that's how much we're owing. Does that make sense, guys? Question 3, calculate the total amount to be paid for the loan. So principal, interest rate, period they give us. So first we have to find our interest, don't we? That's always what we do if we want to calculate how much we have to pay back. We have to know how much extra they are going to be charging us for lending us money. Now have a look, guys. The period is in months and the interest rate is in a per annum, a yearly rate. So we have to do some conversions to start off with. So, well, how many years in a month? So how many months in a year? There's 12 months in a year. So to calculate how many years in 18 months, we simply divide it by 12, don't we? And get 1.5. So the period is now going to be 1.5 years, and you can see now that it matches with the interest rate unit. So let's find interest using our formula again. Multiply the principal, the rate, and the number of periods, which is 1.5, okay, that we've just converted. And you should get $360. Now, we have to find the total amount that we're owing. So it's going to be this one. Total to be paid is our principal plus the interest that we've just calculated over here. So we add the interest on top of the principal of $6,000 and calculate it. You should get something like this. That's how much we pay back altogether at the very end. Does that make sense? That's question 3. Let's do another one. Calculate the total amount to be paid for the loan. So they give us the principal, they give us the rate, and they also give us the period. But hopefully everyone caught that the units are not matching. So that's very important if you got that. So this one's is a quarterly rate, and this one is a monthly period. So we have to do some conversions. We'll have to convert the months into quarters. Okay, guys, it's okay if you can change the quarters, the rate to a monthly rate, that's okay too, but usually it's easier to actually convert the period into the interest rate unit. So there's 3 months in 1 quarter, so we're going to be dividing by 3, which becomes 3 quarters. So now we have to use this for the period. So let's find the interest now using our interest formula. Interest is principal times the rate times the number of periods, which is 3, because we want the quarterly rate and the quarterly period. So calculate it, we get 540. And now finally we have to find the total amount to be paid for the loan, which is going to be this formula here. We add our interest that we've just calculated on top of the principal value that we borrow. So add it together and that's what you should have. Make sense, guys? So total to be paid, there are 2 steps. Well, in this case, there's 3 because we had to do some conversions. But make sure you always add the amount that you borrow to the interest.